All right, so welcome to the podcast. My name is Brandon Furlot.
And I'm Jonathan Leese. And together
we are No Clue. So today we're just going to be talking about some aspects of music that we enjoy. And so the first question I want to talk about is, every musician has an artist or several artists that inspire them most. So what artist do you think inspires us the most, that we really generate our music off of?
Well, part of the reason we make such a great pair is because we come from such different musical backgrounds. I was raised learning piano and classical pieces, and you grew up on, solid punk and metal, right? And obviously, my tastes have expanded a whole bunch, and so have yours, so we've kind of convalesced into this mixture of, punk and indie and all these crazy things. One of the bands that I would say influences me the most, just because I listen to them so much, is 21 Pilots, and they're another great duo.
Exactly.
We might be better, we're not sure.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty close. I also grew up listening to 21 Pilots. They're just such a great band, and what they're able to do with just the two people is incredible, and I think that takes we get a lot of inspiration from that. And they're just such
music and just the outlook on life and the way they go about making the music really definitely influences us. How about you, Brandon? What do you think your top influence would be?
For me, just in general, on a musical aspect, I think that My Chemical Romance honestly just has such a great influence on us, just because their songs are so much fun to play and listen to and cover as well.
And that's really important, too. It's not just about the audience. We love you guys, but we also need to have fun. I don't want to be bored out of my mind sitting back playing my,
little corner
kick
notes.
And snare. It's not, it's got to be entertaining for the musicians, too.
Yeah, and, they make such great music, and, on a musical aspect, if you listen to them, it's there's so many different layers to their songs, and especially off their album Danger Days, like the cool kind of synth effects that they use on their album.
There's so much going on. There is never a moment where it's just your one thing.
Exactly, and that's what I think is really cool about music too, is that it's a lot of musicians are able to do some really cool things with some really strange stuff.
Yeah, the weird stuff is the best stuff. I mean, look at Billie Eilish. There's this interesting story. I think it was Bad Guy, her major hit. Her brother was just chilling in Australia and recorded this crosswalk sound that's this weird offbeat hi-hat, and he made it and he put it in the song, and that's incredible.
Exactly.
It's a sidewalk noise. And it's won 6 Grammys. There is so much random stuff that you can just stick in there. It's great.
Yeah, music is great.
Yeah. We're such good podcasts.
Of course.
Music is great.
Music is excellent. My next question is, what song do you think that you enjoy covering the most, and that we think we cover the best?
I would say Lithium.
That's a good song.
That's
a good one.
It's nice because there are levels to it. You can kind of lay back and improv over it a little bit. Mm-hmm. You can just sing along and say the lyrics and play the bass guitar part. I can just sit there and play on my ride. But then there are parts of it where you're just going full ham and playing your ghost notes and your 16th notes and all your crazy strumming on the guitar, so you can really take it to another level there, which is nice because you're not stuck at one. I can't think of another word for level, but
yeah, it really truly is. Speaking about levels, that song just has so many different layers to it, and it's so much fun to play because it's got that soft little intro part that he does, and it's really calm and quiet, but then it just kicks into that heavy, overdriven kind of chorus.
You can really work with the dynamic contrast there, which is something that makes a lot of musicians more attractive, I think.
Yeah.
A good example of that would be Smashing Pumpkins.
I love the Smashing Pumpkins.
They are really good at going really quiet and really loud, and they execute both flawlessly.
Exactly.
So that dynamic range is something that can set you apart, and that's something we can work on some more, definitely.
Exactly. Yeah. Bullet with Butterfly Wings. That song is a perfect example of that.
That is an amazing song.
It's a great
one of my
song.
favorite Smashing Pumpkins songs.
It truly is a good song.
The whole Siamese Dream album is just...
I'm pretty sure, Courtney Love claims that album's about her.
I know, she dated Billy Corgan before she went on to Kurt Cobain, which I thought was really interesting.
Exactly.
And honestly, Billy Corgan probably stopped caring, but I just think that's a really interesting connection.
Yeah, it truly is.
They came up in basically the same era, but I don't really think of them as being from the same era. Even
Hole and Smashing Pumpkins are really just kind of you don't think of them to be similar. I mean, they are, but you don't think of it to be.
They are, but it does not seem like it unless you really, really pay attention, which is nice. It's cool that such crazy different things came out of the 90s. The 90s was a great decade.
The
for
90s
music.
was, in all
We went in
fairness,
so many different directions. We
You had
alternative, you had grunge, you
hip hop,
had
rap,
hip hop. Oh my god, hip hop came into its own in the 90s.
and then you had that sort of fusion with hip hop and punk, like the Beastie Boys.
Yes.
It's a great, and then Alanis
Faraway
Morissette.
Mike. Yes.
Like, oh, it's just.
And then you also had this whole like the MTV Unplugged era where everyone was going back to acoustic.
Yeah.
That ties back into Nirvana because their MTV Unplugged album is crazy.
Yeah, speaking of MTV Unplugged, I love that because it really just breaks down the song to its basics.
Yes.
And you know, it's fun, like we were talking about, it's fun to have a song with different layers, but it's also fun to have a song that's like.
Skeletal.
Exactly. You can break it down to its bare bones and like break it down. Yeah, I think that's such a really cool thing that MTV should bring back.
And that demonstrates a level of musicianship that a lot of people don't have, the ability to rewrite the song, even just to put it in a different key or to just do
Exactly.
and change around, like you're not stuck in that one rut.
Yeah, it's.
There's some similar stuff that's going on now with NPR Tiny Desk is another good example. They are not technically limited to being acoustic like MTV Unplugged was, but they are basically forced to contort their setup into a tiny desk per se.
Yeah.
So a lot of times they'll go acoustic just because it takes up a lot less space, and there's a lot of interesting stuff going on there too.
That is so true. Yeah, and you know, just to be able to, and it takes, like you said, it takes such a certain level of musicianship to be able to actually like make a song an acoustic when it's not actually like, I don't know, like how Pearl Jam was able to take State of Love and Trust and break that down and do it just a completely acoustic.
It's the same but so different.
Yeah, it truly is just the same but so different.
Yes, isn't that what I just said? There definitely wasn't an interruption there that we just cut out of.
Definitely not.
So, I mean, where do you find inspiration, Brandon? What really makes you want to sit down and write a song?
Just the fact that I know people are able to like make a living off of their creativity and their art. I think that's just something that like I would like obviously want to do in the future. But I mean, just the fact that people are able to take a story and turn it into a hit song is just kind of the coolest thing in my opinion. Like there's this band that I listen to called The Tragically Hip, who are, they're infamous just for like writing songs not about personal things, but about stories that they've heard from like family or friends or like things that their friends have done in the past. I think it's just such a cool thing that musicians are able to do. And that's kind of where I like to drive my inspiration from as well, is just like personal stuff as well as just like stories that like you can come up with that you've heard with.
The storytelling in general is really excellent. And like that kind of ties back into all the stuff we've mentioned so far. Like you look at My Chemical Romance and their lyricism is off the charts.
And it really is.
And if you look at the classic hip hop, like we mentioned, you get A Tribe Called Quest. I left my wallet in El Segundo. He literally just writes a story about leaving his wallet at a restaurant in Mexico because he's busy thinking about getting laid. And so he writes like a 5-minute song about it, and it's a bop.
It's a great song, yeah.
You look at like Eminem, and
Eminem's great.
I mean,
Eminem's
cliche,
great with it.
but his influence is undeniable, right? Like the storytelling aspects of that are seen still today.
Yeah, that is.
There's so much that you can do, and like you said, I really love the idea that you can just make a living off of doing what you love, because a lot of people don't get to do that.
Exactly.
So,
yeah, it's such a great. That's why music is just such a great thing. It just gives so many great opportunities for people. And just to be able to like play your music in front of people would just be like the coolest thing.
it's so nice because it's a way to be heard.
Have
and
your
that's-
voice heard.
That's something we need.
Yeah, it really is cool.
Now, obviously, we are not career musicians, but we do know a little bit of what that means. And it's not just recording music and performing it. You end up doing a lot of other stuff. So you'll end up producing, you'll end up songwriting or ghostwriting for people, you'll end up writing lyrics.
Engineering for different people and stuff.
Engineering is a really big one. That one, that's pretty rare now. So that's a good industry to have a little bit of experience in.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people start teaching private lessons. I'm going to start tutoring a couple kids to pick up money. Like that's something to think about. Like for a career in music, is that you really end up being kind of a jack of all trades.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of have to have all your bases covered just to make a living. And if you play your cards right one day, and your TikTok goes viral by chance,
Your TikTok.
then you've made it, and you can just sit back and really do what you love.
Exactly. And I also think, it's also a great conversation starter in general. Just like, oh yeah, I know how to mix and record music.
You know how to play guitar?
Exactly.
Oh my God, play me something.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the The greatest pickup line of all time.
Yes, I played guitar.
I played the guitar. You know, nothing beats that.
I truly resent the stereotype that you shouldn't date the drummer. Like, excuse me, do you know how hard it is to keep up with all of that stuff?
Yeah,
and not break it and get it home? That is a lot of work. That is a lot of effort.
Yeah, and people...
I need credit for that.
Yeah, and people don't really realize how, like, much of the backbone of the band the drummer is. Literally, if the drummer goes off tempo, the whole song is done.
Yeah,
you gotta start over.
If you screw up, it is obvious.
Exactly.
So that, and I mean, even if you're not playing something complicated, like I played Simple Man with Highway 41 a while back, and 41 a while back, and I'm just like, you know, I'm sitting there doing my real basic stuff, but you gotta keep it in tempo. You gotta be consistent, and that's really the hard part, is continuing to do the same thing over and over and over and over for like 5 minutes without messing up once.
Yeah, that's it, and it takes a lot of skill too.
It
just
comes
to get
from practice too, you know, and that's something that you don't see, is the hours and hours and hours of practice that people put into their instruments. That is not something that comes naturally to most people.
Yeah, and
you've got those, you know, cheaters with perfect pitch who can just sing a musical note without any reference, which is just ridiculous, but most of us aren't like that. Some of us have to earn our bread.
Yeah, and people really don't realize how much effort bands put into cover songs. Like, they don't see the countless hours that they practice, and countless times in a row they just practice one song. Because, I mean, like, especially with, like, me, if I mess up a song midway through, I'm not going to continue. I'm just going to go back and I'm going to try it again.
And you end up just repeating that like 50 times until you get it right, and then it's muscle memory and you're good.
Exactly.
Even people who improvise, like jazz musicians who are just insane at like just coming up with stuff randomly and making it sound good, which, you know, I mean, that's jazz, but like still, it's crazy. It's crazy hard, right? And you do that through practice. You practice the improvising and you build up the little licks and you change them, you change the key, you put in the passing notes and all this stuff. Like there is nothing that does not come from practice in music. It's all there.
Yeah, and that's why I have such insane respect for like jazz musicians, because like their fingers can stretch like an astronomical rate. Like it's amazing. Absolutely incredible.
I love jazz. Like I love all music, but jazz definitely holds a special place in my heart.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And it you know, it gets fused with everything. Like, yeah. You've got jazz hip hop, you've got jazz rock, which is, I mean, I guess think Chicago and Blood, Sweat, and Tears. Your jazz hip hop, you've got A Tribe Called Quest, you've got The Far Side, you've got your jazz punk, which I can't really think of a band right now, but I'm sure that's a thing.
I'm sure it's gotta be a thing. I mean, if they've got K-punk, then I mean, like...
It's
they've gotta have jazz punk.
To be fair, they have K everything.
Korea is just its own musical nation at this point.
It's great. I'm glad they're getting recognition for that. Yeah, so, you know, covering in, you know, inspiration, you know, that leads to like songwriting and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I really love the songwriting process in general, just because it comes from so many different parts, and it starts in such a weird way, and it's so cool to watch. Like, it's kind of like your baby. It's so cool to watch like this like child of yours grow from a little guitar riff into a full-fledged song. And it's so satisfying when you know you're doing the right thing, and you're like, oh yes, that chord, that is what I need. That perfect placement. You never realize it's going to happen until it does, but eventually everything will just fall into place, and it's like you just divine inspiration almost. Yeah, that satisfaction of finding the perfect chord in a chord progression is just... It's amazing. It's the best thing. It's up there with like Ice Cream and Romance. Exactly, the best things. Yeah, and I love the way that kind of we come up with songs, is because it always just starts with the basics. You know, it always starts with a guitar riff. You know, you will bring in just a guitar riff. It could be 3 notes and a power chord. Exactly. And then I will start playing something on the drums, and we'll slowly make it more complicated. And then usually one of us will have prepared lyrics that we just wrote down during a time of great trauma or sadness. We haven't written a happy song yet. Exactly. It's like even the ones that are like life is great, we've got that tinge of irony behind it. Yeah, that tinge of just despair lurking in the background. We're so bitter as teenagers. There's no overcoming it, you know? And like people hate on how emotional we are, but you know, it's good inspiration. It really is. And I just love the fact that sometimes you'll just... Like, even you'll be like, all right, there's this cool tempo. Let's write a song in this tempo. Yes. Like, let's write a song in 6/8 right here, right now. And we just do it. And you just go ahead. This is the best part. And, you know, sometimes, like, it's not spontaneous. Sometimes I'll just hear something in a song, and I'm like, that's cool. I want to do that. There's this great Mac Miller song, which was off his first posthumous album, Circles. It's called Blue World, and they take this sample of like a really crunchy old vocal, like a quartet vocal of some sort, and they like chop it up into a synth sound, and that is just crazy. I took a sample of an Andrews Sisters song and started chopping that up into a synth sample, and it didn't work out. But that was so fun, just trying to mimic things you hear. Like, it doesn't have to be your own thing. You can take and imitate and then make it your own.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. And, like, I love the aspect of just, like, hearing something in a song and being like, I want to do something like that.
Yes.
You know, it's, like, so close to copying, but it's not.
You can even start out by copying it, but after, like, 10 seconds, you're going to come up with something that you think is better than the original thing, and it's just immediately going to branch off into this little tangent, and eventually it's just yours.
Yeah, that's just great about inspiration and stuff like that. Is like, it's just you hear something and it's just like, well, now I've got to do something very similar to that, but in my own way. And you're able to put like your own kind of like touch to it, and you add that cool little aspect to
and
it.
And even with covers, you do that. You know, you can
Yeah.
add in a little riff for a fill. You can stop it at a different time.
Add a completely different verse to it that you just decided to come up with. You know.
And sometimes that it's better than the original. Like,
Exactly.
you know, we're not we are not millionaires off of this, but we're not half bad.
Yeah, you know?
like we're young. We've got
Exactly.
plenty of time.
Yeah.
What we don't have a lot of is time left on this podcast. So with
Yes.
that, I think we're going to have to wrap.
Yeah. Thank you all for listening, and we'll catch you later.
We are
No clue.